Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the St. Louis Spirits Draft Day video extravaganza thing. My name is John Fleming. Once again, I am in charge of the St. Louis Spirits, and also we're 68 and 13. So this season has gone pretty favorably for this team. We are locked in for the third consecutive season to having the best record in the NBA. So we will be moving right along into the playoffs with a nice little thing going. So, do a quick look at a couple things. First of all, I'll show everybody where the mock draft currently is set up, which is to say, currently we're projected to have the second overall pick because we have the Charlotte Hornets pick. I actually was forgetting whether this was a protected pick or whether this was a unprotected pick. I'm actually starting to think that it's an unprotected one. But at the same time, I'm okay with that because I think it's very clear that the Hornets are not going to be particularly good for a while. So, we're going to get a good pick either this year or next out of this trade where we, traded our starting shooting guard, Dennis Johnson. But, he's a guy who's getting older, really didn't do that much as far as the season was concerned. We did have quite the breakthrough, though, this season, and I'll pull up the stats to show that. Here are the player stats for the season. Chris Mullin was actually our leading scorer, which is a change from every other season in the history of this franchise, because every other season it's been Hakeem Olajuwon who's leading the team in scoring. And then we do have Hakeem leading in rebounding, but Mullin putting up good assist numbers. I think you could argue between the two as far as who's actually the better player for this team, but I'm pretty excited about this progress. So just bask in the glow of those for like 2 seconds while I go get my dog from outside. Yeah, so I'm not even going to pretend to play out this game against the Heat because I just truly do not care. This game does not matter. But hey, we got to win. But looks like Rory Sparrow got a groin injury, so that's less than ideal. But hey, Hakeem Olajuwon once again MVP. So that is his second straight year of being MVP, or is it his third straight? Second straight MVP. That's pretty cool. Chris Morris gets Rookie of the Year for the Cavaliers. He was the third overall pick. Johnny Dawkins for the second in a row gets Sixth Player of the Year. Len Bias gets DPOY. I don't know how he did not win MVP based on him having those numbers and also being DPOY, but is what it is. Jerry Reynolds wins the realistically most valuable veteran on an expansion team award. So honestly, if you look at his numbers, the big jump was last year. But the guy goes from being a second round pick to being a nearly 20-point a game player. That is pretty cool, and especially because I think that one thing that a lot of people think, and I tend to think this too, is that the drafting becomes a little bit easier because we have the hindsight. We know what these players become. But you get a guy like Jerry Reynolds, who I don't know who this guy is, but even in this universe, he was still like the 30-something pick in 1985. Like, we could have had him, but we chose not to. But he's gone on and have a good career, which that sort of thing is what sports is all about, right? Sean Moore is Coach of the Year. John Fleming is Executive of the Year. That's cool. Let's look at those All-NBA teams. Magic Johnson and Michael Adams are the guards. Len Bias and Karl Malone are the forwards. And then Hakeem is first-team center. Once again, I was kind of hoping that Chris Mullin might sneak onto one of these teams. It looks like it's Michael Jordan and Jared Jenkins for the guards, Charles Barkley and Hot Rod Williams for the forwards, and then Patrick Ewing as the center. Oh, we do have a third team all of a sudden, but it couldn't make that team either. But I mean, Dominique Wilkins, Larry Bird, it happens. Arvydas Sabonis is the center. Ron Harper and Isaiah Thomas get the guard spots. I actually tried to make a move for Ron Harper earlier this year, see if I could trade away some of the depth forwards we have plus some draft picks, plus Kevin Johnson to get Ron Harper. They weren't having it, but it worked out for us just fine. All defensive team, curiously enough, even though it's Hakeem Olajuwon, who was a first-team All-NBA and prior to this season had won DPOY every year in his career, does not make the all-defensive first team. That goes to Patrick Ewing alongside Michael and Clyde as the guards, Len Bias and Karl Malone as the forwards. No contributions on the second team either. Michael Adams and Ron Harper, Hot Rod Williams, Kevin McHale, and then Ralph Sampson, who just seems to perpetually be on second teams in this universe. All rookie teams, we have Chris Morris, Greg Augustine, John Starks, Willie Anderson, Ronnie Cycli. I know we had at least looked at Willie Anderson at one point, but did not end up drafting him. I have two guys on the rookie second team. We have Danny Manning, who was the 4th overall pick, averaged 10.4 a game. Mitch Richmond averaged 12.7 a game. More minutes. I think there's a case that Mitch Richmond was a little bit underwhelming in his rookie season, but on a team like this, he's not going to get as many opportunities as a guy like Chris Morris is, a guy who 3rd overall pick for a team that, unlike ours, is genuinely not very good. He's going to get more opportunities, so I get it. But let's advance forth, and a reminder that we are in the Western Conference this year, so we will be playing the Phoenix Suns in the first round. The Golden State Warriors seemed to be in the finals last year. We wouldn't be able to play against them until the conference finals, but they were the 6th seed. So let's adjust our roster right quick here. So Michael Cooper and Hakeem Olajuwon are somewhat tired, which is interesting. So one adjustment that I'm going to make here. So I actually do have Scottie Pippen moved to being his second position being point guard, which he kind of, the stereotypical point forward role. Where is he showing here? Is he showing point guard minutes? He is. I might cut this rotation down to being a 9-player rotation. Rick Smits has been fine, but, didn't really play that much this season. Don't really need him in the rotation. At this point, you get Scottie Pippen on 15 minutes. And honestly, he should probably be playing almost entirely point guard, and that's pretty much how they see this going. I think this is a rotation to go with. I am hoping that Rory Sparrow, not that he's an indispensable point guard or anything, but he's, you can look at those numbers and tell that he was kind of putting up more, having more of a role, but that kind of late injury ends up hurting. So let's check this. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the recording was going fine. It's Phoenix at St. Louis. Got a nice little lead building up that it's nearly fell apart in the second quarter, but building back up again. Spirits are going to go ahead and win this game with relative ease. 27 points for Hakeem. Chris Mullin, despite becoming this big scoring threat for the team, only gets 11 points, but, decent outcome. Greg Anderson nearly gets a double-double. Only game 1, so I don't want to draw too many big conclusions here. Game 2, Spirits have a 4-point lead after the quarter, slowly building up the lead. This is a nice but somewhat unspectacular win, but 25 points just sort of slowly accumulated throughout the night. Chris Mullin does become the leading scorer in this game and gets 9 assists, so good overall performance here by the team, and I'm feeling like we're going to get past Phoenix, which is first thing you have to do is slight lead on the road here. May or may not have to actually jump in at some point this series. Looks like I'm not going to have to. Only ends up being a single-digit win, but they end up winning every quarter. So Spirits move on. Chris Mullin, Hakeem Olajuwon, kind of, and Brad Doherty, a guy who, if you look at his stats for the season, was building up throughout the year, and now he's averaging 19.3 during the postseason. I'm wondering if he has a Chris Mullin-like kind of move where he becomes more of a threat in the postseason, and then that carries over the next season. That'd be pretty fun. See how Mitch Richmond's stats are looking. He's at 13.7. Okay. Clippers are actually ahead in this series, but it does look like it'll be the Lakers that we are playing, which still mostly intact from the glory days of the Lakers. I've actually been watching Winning Time, the HBO series, lately, and so I feel like I'm more studied on these guys than I used to be. But 22-point win to start off for the Spirits. Double doubles from Elijah and Mullen, different styles. And Doherty almost had a double double as well. Magic Johnson, James Worthy, yeah, they're just crushing in the. Hakeem is still around. That's interesting because he is. So I think he played this season if I remember correctly. But yeah, 42 years old, definitely. Getting older, and he's a 76. So I guess he's the backup center at this point. To who would be the? Because I feel like he'd because none of the other guys are centers, right? I'm not going crazy here. So yeah, Magic's playing point guard. Worthy's the power forward. Byron Scott's shooting guard. Yeah, maybe they're just playing really small lineups. Maybe we're exploiting a weakness here. Maybe that's what's going on. But I feel like with an older Hakeem or with an older Kareem, in theory, this could present a chance for Hakeem to cook. But Lakers get off to a nice early lead here. Spirits are fighting back in a small lead, 4-point lead. Let's jump in. So this will be our first jump in. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing with Lakers uniforms here where you can certainly tell the difference between the two, but they are wearing lighter colors.
Here's Johnson, and he uses the glass on the layup.
So yeah, this would be a bad time to have the Spud Webb, Muggsy Bogues point guard duo last season. They're on the Hornets now. Look what happened to them. There we go. Nice play, Kevin.
Went in close. His first thought is to go right for the rim.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Johnson obviously is not huge, but if he can just get a jump on Magic, even with Magic's size advantage, he's going to be able to put up a fight.
Over Cooper. And the shot falls short this time.
Well, we've seen him make this shot often with no defensive coverage. He's got to be kicking himself he didn't make that one.
Now here's Doherty. Here's Anderson. And they call the foul.
Ooh, an and one. Okay. Things are looking quite favorable here for the Spirits. Not sure what kind of free throw shooter this guy is. That'll work. Seven-point lead for the Spirits. Not insurmountable, but things are suddenly looking quite good. Let's put a defensive lineup out there. We don't need to overthink this one.
A moment now to hear from our sideline reporter, Hall of Famer David Alden. David.
Thanks, guys. Brad Nelson had some words for his team during the break. He challenged his team. He said they're not going to...
All right, I'm going to briefly pause this game because I realized that my dog appears to be eating a bread tie. So we'll be taking that away from him. Got into some bread earlier whenever I was at work today. Luckily, there was only kind of the end piece of bread left, so it's not too dangerous, but some of the remnants of the damage appear to have hit the ground.
A basket here, Coach Vitello would give them some breathing space.
No need to hurry.
Yeah, Lakers learning the fault of the full court press there as Brad Doherty just tiptoes to the basket from half court with the ball.
All in their favor right now.
Los Angeles calls timeout. There's 37 seconds left to play in the final quarter. What do you think Coach's focus is going to be here?
Hard to say whether they have enough time for a quick shot and a foul here.
Yeah, time is not on their side. But that's their only hope, so I'm sure they'll give it a shot.
Here's Woodson. Pass to Abdul-Jabbar. And taken away by Johnson. There's a 4-second...
That felt like a definitive steal there. Actually, more time left on the clock than I thought there was, but they're not even trying to foul, so...
On Magic Johnson. That'll be foul number 5 on him, and due to the bonus, will be headed to the free throw line. And the first of 2.
May have been a little bit fancy, kind of flying a little close to the sun by having Brad Doherty.
The bigger question now is about his ability to keep
2 pretty poor free throws from Mr. Doherty.
It counts, and now they trail by just 4.
4-point game. That's not my favorite thing. But
on Magic Johnson. And
So Magic
he's picked
fouled
up his
out.
final foul, and he will sit for the rest of this game.
Not that it's likely to matter, but
First
probably
free
not what
throw
they
is good,
had
and that
drawn
puts
up.
them up by 5.
So makes a 6-point game, KJ.
Second one is good, hitting both at the line, and it's a 6-point ball game.
Tremendous poise at the line. That should put this game to bed.
Los Angeles calls timeout. 9 seconds left in the game. And what's their best move at this point?
Boy, they need to respond fast.
Preferably a 3 if there's a clean look.
Here's Corbin. Pass to Abdul-Jabbar. Here's Woodson. Off target with his 3.
All right, and the Spirits are up 2-0 on a Lakers team that has been, even with our championship last year, still been kind of a dominant team of the era. Yeah, 26-13 from Magic, 26 also from Chris Mullin. So, Chris Mullin really is, with this season, even with Hakeem still getting MVP, it does feel like this was, Chris Mullin kind of asserting himself as one of the best players in the NBA. Spirits pulling away there, and we have a 3-0 lead. This team still has not lost a game. Double-double from Hakeem. What else is new? 23 points from Mitch Richmond. And then Mullin got 20. Let's go ahead and just try to sweep out the Lakers here on May 6th, 1989. Have a lead, but not exactly an overwhelming one yet. Okay, 8-point lead, 9-point lead. Okay, this is over. Yeah, so... Yeah, Chris Mullin gets 33. Kevin Johnson gets a double-double. Greg Anderson gets 15 rebounds in 30 minutes. That's pretty cool. But, the big story, though, is we are into the conference finals. So here we'll be playing the Seattle Supersonics. All right, 1-point lead at halftime. Okay, we're on a roll here. 35-point victory. It's interesting because this was clearly a good team throughout the regular season, but there's really no evidence this team was going to just completely run through the playoffs like they have so far. I know this is a big knock on wood moment, but the Spirits have really pretty well been in control during this postseason run. And 31-point victory in Game 2. Chris Mullin gets 36 points. A couple double-doubles from a couple. And I have to say, Greg Anderson is... his numbers aren't that much ahead. Maybe this is just more of recently, last few games. But, Greg Anderson is really starting to, emerge as a potential, legitimate power forward. I don't know how much longer... the Brad Doherty thing's going to last. I'm going to have to trade him away or what the deal is going to be there. But, having multiple options there, and the idea that he's taking the step rather than Danny Manning, the rookie who I might have expected. But, yeah, St. Louis is continuing 14-point lead, 14-point victory. All right, what's one of the other series? So Boston's up 2-1 in the other series. Could be interesting to face off against an old conference rival. 18-point lead through first quarter. Okay, the St. Louis Spirits are not messing around here. They are just going straight for the jugular. And we are into the NBA Finals and have not lost a game yet. Hakeem ends up being the one to kind of shoulder the load in that game. Let's simulate through to see what happens. The Celtics, all right. The battle of the 2-star small forwards who are white. Keeping it up. Ended up only being a 10-point victory, which felt like it was going to end up being a little bit larger, but still no huge doubts there. Elijah Wan with the double-double. Chris Mullin as well. I promise that we will jump onto the court for any clinching games. Or honestly, any elimination games. I feel like we should be out there for the end of our season regardless, but win this game. Wow. Yeah, Chris Mullin and Hakeem Olajuwon both have 20-point double-doubles. Chris Mullin nearly has a triple-double. Yeah, this team just really is contributing. Scottie Pippen still has been a little underwhelming, especially for being the 5th overall pick. but also at this point, I'm not going to complain too much about any of these guys. If we end up just retaining this exact same roster next year, even if with our draft picks in mind, I'd be pretty excited about that. All right, so we have a 12-point lead. Okay, we got this one. Spirits up 3-0, going for the back-to-back championships. Chris Mullin just absolutely rocking last game, 34 points. Rory Sparrow's fully available now. Not sure that we necessarily want him based on the fact that the team's been outrageously good without him, but yeah, really hard to justify messing with success here. Maybe if they lose this game, but this team's doing pretty spectacularly. Tough first half, only up by 1. All right, so 12-point lead, 52 seconds left. Things are looking pretty good for the Spirits. Celtics have the ball. If they can score right away, it's possible, but it seems like this is probably going to be back-to-back championships for the Spirits.
48 seconds left in the fourth quarter. From the high post, he can't get it to go.
He's a solid mid-range shooter, but just wasn't able to knock that one down.
Johnson, the pass to Cooper. Anderson against McHale. Anderson kicks to Mullin. Back to Anderson.
Yeah, just happy to run some time here.
Just 5 to shoot. And the slam dunk by
wow,
Johnson.
that was a better dunk from Kevin Johnson than I was expecting there. I knew I had the run on him. I thought that might be a dunk. I thought it might be a layup. I didn't think it was going to be just a full-on power slam. But
unhappy here in this arena.
Jackson passes to Bird.
Always looks like Bird is a step ahead.
Got a
Makes
foul
it very
here.
difficult to slow him down.
At the line for Boston, Larry Bird, taking 2 shots.
Take a break. Take a break. 2 shots.
The first free throw is good.
Larry getting his consolation prize shots here.
Bird hits them both.
Steve Kerr's in the game, which is how you know things are about to wrap up. Sorry, Mitch Richmond. And that's what.
And they've done it.
There we go.
NBA
Champions.
champions.
Spirits for the second year in a row. Win the NBA championship on the road.
Oh, to be
This time it was in 4, last time it was in 6.
Is something else. To win and to do it with a crowd that was so emotional and so into this game. You've beaten the team and you've conquered everything that this great arena holds.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet moment for the home crowd. But all full credit to the visitors and
See if this will show the MVP being given out. We're giving Mitch Richmond, for some reason, the trophy, but that's fine.
And even if
there's Chris Mullin. Looks like he's the one getting the MVP, so that's fun. I like to spread the awards around. That's pretty cool, I think.
And we've enjoyed bringing you every minute of the action here.
Let's see what the stats were in that last game. Oh, yeah, I mean, not that Mullin was bad by any means, but I would probably say small advantage to Keem for the last game, but there we go. St. Louis Spirits won the championship. Chris Mullin is finals MVP. He had nearly 9.3 assists. Those are some pretty strong numbers. So on we go to the postseason. We are going to see if we can just keep this whole train a-chugging. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is retiring. Jamal Wilkes, World B. Free. Got some really good NBA players here. Quite a few of them, Hall of Fame. Scott Wedman, he was briefly a St. Louis Spirit. Yeah, his last game was with the Spirits. Yeah, a lot of guys who were in the Hall of Fame in real life here. Kareem, Jamal Wilkes are in the Hall of Fame. I don't think World B. Free is, but, a good player. John Lucas. Gus Williams passed away recently. R.I.P. Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, Hall of Famers. Walter Davis has his number retired, I believe. Maurice Lucas is not a Hall of Famer, but is a legend of the Spirits of St. Louis ABA team in reality. So that's cool. Ken Benson, the most recent white American player drafted number 1 overall, retires. Shout out to Cooper Flagg. See if he is able to snap that streak this year. Let's go to staff retirements. So we do have a Spirits retirement here of the team doctor. Looking at what positions these guys have, not necessarily the huge names, but the assistant GM of 29 years. Got to be honest, if that's what the 29-year veteran looks like, that guy has 8. He must be having a Benjamin Button kind of thing going on. Hall of Fame inductees, yeah, I mean, Kareem was obviously the guy who was going in among that group. Jersey retirements, there's quite a few of them. Gus Williams by the Sonics, Walter Davis by the Suns, Jamal Wilkes by the Lakers, and then Kareem by both the Bucks and the Lakers. No arguments here. Got a couple expansion teams here, which I need to remember that so I don't screw up the saving of the. I got to make sure I save this game, and if the game freezes on me, then just cut the video short. But team branding, the Heat and the Hornets are changing. I don't imagine there's going to be any radical changes as far as switching conferences based on this expansion because they were evenly distributed last time. As far as 13 and 13, Magic will obviously be in the East, Timberwolves will be in the West, Knicks, Lakers, Spurs, changing all that. All right, let's go ahead and save this game just so I don't forget this later. But league meetings, yeah, adding 2 expansion teams. Before we get into league realignment, can I make any? I just want to look at the roster, just kind of have an idea of what's going on here. Okay, that was just to make sure the game wasn't going to freeze on me. So I actually think that this is somewhat paradoxical. I think that one of the big issues here is actually that there just aren't guys to expose, to the, because you had to expose at least one guy to the expansion draft. So we actually might be acquiring guys just for that purpose. So we'll go ahead and switch the Nuggets and the Jazz back to the Midwest. And the Timberwolves will be in the Midwest. 7 teams per division. Yep. So now the Atlantic Division. So yeah, Detroit should definitely be in the Central. The Heat should be in the Atlantic. Switch them out with who's the other one? The Cavs. Yeah, definitely. I think this is probably right. I don't love the Hornets being in the Central, but which Atlantic team do you necessarily remove? I don't know. We'll just go with that. That's good enough. All right, on to the draft lottery we go. Again, I don't remember if that Charlotte pick is actually ours, so we'll see what happens. So Sacramento gets the first selection. Spurs, yeah. The Bucks jump up, and so do the Bullets. And we'll keep in mind we'll have the expansion teams going 5 and 4. The Rockets get that pick there. They are 7th. They did take Mitch Richmond, and we stole the pick from them. There's the Spirits. Okay, so we do have the number 6 pick. So the Hornets had some protection, but at number 6, we're going to get the pick, which is honestly probably, we'll take it. That's fine. The Timberwolves are going to go 5. The Magic are going to go 4. Yeah, having the number 6 pick in a draft like this where there's a deep level of good players, but not necessarily anybody that you're writing home about is about right. And, we'll probably have the draft capital to make it work if we need to. Bucks are going 3rd, so now it's going to be the Bullets and the Cavs. The Cavs have had so many number 1 picks, though the Bullets got the number 1 pick whenever we were expanding. So they're number 2, though. Cavs are at number 1. All right. Who would I be interested in trading here? Might be interested in trading Anderson, though, since he's an expired. Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure what that was going to amount to. What if we traded away this second round pick? No players are being offered up. If I try to trade a second round pick next year, yeah, we'll leave it unprotected. That I may have to like retrofit what we're going for here. Okay, let's just try to find a player. Can I serve by all I can't? Okay. Let's find a player who's not making that much money and who has, 2 years left on their contract. Andrew Toney, can we bring him back? There's a case for it. It's not making that much money. It wouldn't be horrible. Not making offers for him, okay. Well, I guess the guys with 1 year left are fine. Mark West. Lots of things. I don't want to give up actual players for these guys. I want to get some mediocre player and trade like a second round pick or something for him. That's the whole dream here. Brad Davis. No offers found. Very interesting is not the right word. All right, Jay Vincent. I'm not going to trade the 6 overall pick for this guy. Like, come on, let's be realistic, guys. This is ridiculous. Alan Level. Okay, so if there's a way that I could just find who is like the worst player available. So let's go to all players. Let's go to overall. Well, I only want players that are signed, though. I'm going to have to sift through this quite a bit. Surely we're acquiring a player at least. I know I've gone past a few guys who are like actually contracted, but I don't want to go too. So now keep an eye on the contract. Okay, so Michael Anderson from the Bucks, who was somehow a lottery pick last year. Don't know how that happened, but let's see what we can do in terms of getting Michael Anderson. Can we trade some? He's got some team options, which is not. They're saying no offers, but I feel like we could. Surely Michael Anderson is not like off the table. Yeah, maybe we can't afford the contract. What if we traded our pick here? They are not willing to do that. Don't want to trade a valuable asset like Michael Anderson. Okay, this is getting just totally comical at this point. Norm Nixon. He's a veteran. Honestly, wouldn't be the worst player to acquire if you're somebody. Okay. If we give up the Pistons second. Okay, apparently this guy actually has some value, which I guess makes some level of sense. Let's go past the Hawks. Darwin Cook's probably a little bit better than I'm looking for. But Cedric Maxwell. He's getting older. trade a couple draft picks. I'm almost to the point where I'm like, I guess we're going to have to just lose an actual, like, expose an actual decent player. Tragic as that sounds. These teams are too good. These expansion teams are going to be too good. Can I trade for Harvey Grant? They would require me to give up an actual good draft pick. Granted, they would throw another pick in, but I'm not going to do that. I've made a move for Ricky Berry. Oh, he's same level as Norm. Kevin Edwards. He's not very good. Apparently, he's too good for what I'm looking to do. This is definitely going to... John Sunvold. Hey, you're not that good. Oh, come on. Okay. The team's too good. Too good for our own good. It's concerning. It's deeply troubling. Jeff Rulin is too expensive. How old is Rick Mahorn? I'm only going to take on salary. I don't care about that part. I'm not going to be signing free agents anyway. Rick Mahorn for our first round and then a second round pick. That's actually like... That was like somewhat plausible. That was not an outrageous thing to do. Let's throw another second in there. Man, you're not... These teams are not receptive at all. Mark West? I feel like I made that offer already. Let's just throw another... This is a deeply upsetting, deeply concerning turn of events here. I feel like we need to like really start exasperating the kind of the excitement of this moment. Really get everybody pumped for trying to trade incredibly boring assets away. Can I trade for Moreland Wiley? Oh, he's hurt. Okay. I would actually trade for Daryl Dawkins. He's expensive. But I could see a team actually wanting to draft him, though. And we are so close. I can tell by how slow of a return that was. For this other second round pickup. Okay, I don't want to give up some comical amount for, again, literally a giveaway. What a stupid sport this is. What a stupid game this is. This is concerning. Very concerning. There's so many expired contracts here. All right, Cedric Maxwell. It's too good. All right, I'm going to try the Norm Nixon thing again. I'm going to try to throw another draft pick or two at him. If we throw that other second there. Are any of these players tradable? Because that would be another option. I'm going to try to do that. Because I don't want to lose a guy like Rick Smits in the expansion draft. But if I can trade Rick Smits for like a draft pick and somebody worse, I can live with that. Not Danny Manning. I don't necessarily need these many power forwards. Norm Nixon and a first round pick. That is a thought. We'll go back to it though. Okay, so the Timberwolves are offering the 5th overall pick and a future first for Danny Manning, which doesn't solve our overall problem. I don't think I want to do that. And part of it's that like this draft doesn't necessarily inspire me in any particular way. Let's see. The Hawks. Can I get another pick out of them? Because Danny Manning's a legitimate prospect here. About the 92 first round pick. How about the 93 first round pick? No. Okay. How about we throw in our first round pick from this year? How about we just go back to the original offer? What? Oh, hold on. Okay. So go back to the trade finder. I'm positive I can at least get that trade out of this. All right, that works. We'll do it. I don't love it, but sometimes things have to be done. I don't have any of these guys to get, which is good. Draft combine. After all this work, I'm going to save just in case there's another issue. I'm not redoing that whole process. That process was boring. All right, gonna scout all the top guys. There's a bunch of C pluses out there, so let's just find who the best of the C pluses are. Sean Kemp's definitely a guy that I have interest in. Probably feels like I should scout Mookie Blaylock just because he was, looking at like a potential number 1 overall pick in some of these. So I can't imagine. Yeah, we're gonna scout BJ Armstrong instead. Let's go to the expansion draft. Oh, this whole time oh, come on. Could have just let Steve Kerr go. Well, I kind of just want to get rid of Norm Nixon at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna leave him available, see if he gets drafted. If he doesn't, it's not a huge deal, though I would prefer that somebody just took him off our hands. Hey, Lester Connor, he was in ours, and there's Norm Nixon. So that's fun. Let's simulate the rest of this draft. This is the story of how we traded our recent lottery pick for just a random later first-round draft pick. We could have just dangled Steve Kerr. Oh, well. We blew it. That's fine. Back to the draft. Now let's see who's available on the scouting screen. So Tim Hardaway is a real promising player. And honestly, point guards are worst position. I'm not even necessarily opposed to Kevin Johnson as a future point guard, but he's not a great player. Then you've got a guy with the Isaiah Thomas potential in Tim Hardaway. Pretty tempting. Glenn Rice is certainly up there. Some good players. Let's jump in here. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Part of what my strategy here is going to be like, who are the Cavs going to take? They do have a point guard who's expiring, though I could see them going the small forward route and getting Glenn Rice. I think that's what they're going to do. They took Tim Hardaway. Okay, let's see if they're willing to part with Tim Hardaway. Get his draft rights here. What if we trade both of our highest first round picks? I'm going to guess that this is not going to be enough. Yeah, it's not. So that's fine. Bullets take Purvis Ellison. Bucks take Sean Elliott. Magic or okay, they got Sean Elliott at least out of it, but the idea of trading a couple picks there just seemed crazy. Bucks get Glenn Rice. Timberwolves are they're making a trade too, and they're doing it for Glenn Rice and Sean Kemp. Okay, let's see who's available here. I gotta be honest, that like kind of emptied out a little bit more than I expected it to. Huh. Okay. Go back to the scouting page, see who these guys are that got scooped up right away. Unfortunately, it's all a bunch of the guys that like I was more certain about. Yeah, they still had Mookie Blaylock going here. That's fascinating, but a guy like Dana Barros, a guy like BJ Armstrong, like one of these point guards could be of use. But realistically, Tim Hardaway is just way better than those guys. So I'm gonna try the Tim Hardaway move as well. So obviously we're gonna give him number 6. What if we offer them our first next year? That does seem more appealing because they don't know what we're gonna be next year. There we go, we got him. Perfect. And then the Cavs take Dana Barros, who I think is a lot worse. So I'm pretty comfortable with that trade. So now we have guys who are C-level players. Honestly, Mookie Blaylock now seems like a pretty good pick here. I still think it's like he was the projected first overall pick. Is this guy just like sitting in the green room, like incredibly angry? Okay, I can't believe Blaylock slid down this far in the draft. It's a relatively benign comment, but I feel like in this particular case, it actually makes sense. So let's simulate to the next user pick. Man, that's just kind of bleak comps for... I am able to trade this pick, even though I traded my first round pick for next year. I am going to do this Clippers pick. It's top 10 protected, but, rolls over. They get Chucky Brown. We still have a second round pick, so we're going to just do a total. Could take Jaren Jackson, the father of Jaren Jackson Jr. Let's see what he's at. It is funny that his son's a big man, but sure, let's try it. All right. Yeah, we're not going to sign Jaren Jackson. And yeah, 74 for Mookie Blaylock. I mean, he's got a lot of badges. I'll give him that, but would not have made a lot of sense there. So I'm content with this. Pick up all these team options. The Steve Kerr one's the least relevant, I think, but still pretty good. I think this is going to be a fairly breezy rest of the offseason, which is good because early part of this video took forever. So Chris Mullin, I do have the bird rights on, which is very good because I assume I'm going to be matching something pretty sizable. Yeah, some 3-year contracts with a player option for year 4 coming through. Okay. Mullin is prepared to accept an offer from the Lakers. We're going to match that. Yeah, hard to resist that. Not really any shooting guards out there that I'm necessarily craving going for. I don't really care about any of these guys who are out there. I'm just going to simulate to the player progression screen. Yeah, everyone improved just across the board. That's suddenly a very strong starting lineup to me. Still don't love how little progress Scottie Pippen's making, but like as a bench player, he certainly does the job. Hardaway is going to come off the bench as the number 1 overall pick that we traded for. And I think that the real priority for this team is going to be just getting a backup shooting guard. But, grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal. Spud Webb's available, but we already have 3 point guards for the Summer League team. So, all right, Mario Ellie, you are in. David Wingate. One more. How about, Steve Harris. Sure, you're in. Small forwards, Barry Stevens. Bunch of 2-star type guys. Andre Spencer it is. Small forwards, we'll go. Old Jerry Reynolds. Harry Catledge. This team's going to be good, but also I'm not actually going to play any of these because I don't really care. Mark Akers, I'm pretty sure I've had him on a Summer League team before. Got the 4 seed. And we got the title. Nice. Good job, guys. We're all very happy for us. Salt Lake City, Utah hosting the All-Star game. I mean, I've never been to Salt Lake, but that is an absolutely gorgeous sight of just like, hey, here's like these beautiful mountains like right behind, like in the city skyline. That is pretty sweet. I'll give them that. 1990 draft is, the player I associate with the 1990 draft is Gary Payton. That could come up. That seems plausible. If we're still end up looking for point guards, which seems ridiculous based on the fact that we literally just traded for a number 1 overall point guard who's going to be our backup. But sure. Okay. So let's see who the computer signed for us. God, they are addicted to Steve Coulter. Steve Coulter just can't not get an offer. All right. Maybe Michael Cooper will be around again. Look at that. He sure is. All right, Coop. You're always welcome back, Michael Cooper. Always. Every single time. Okay. So they're giving us a 9-man rotation here. I'm going to obviously expand that to 10. Point guards, minutes are still a little bit in flux, but I think Tim Hardaway will step up and kind of fix that problem a little bit. What are the positions of these guys that are deep on the bench? We have a small forward, a point guard, shooting guard, point guard. Probably want at least one more big man in here. Honestly, I think and Malik Alexander can play power forward if it comes down to it, probably. Let's go ahead and get ready to release Steve Coulter, because I think we've established that just isn't going to happen. Maybe get like a center type player here. Maybe a center power forward type. Don't need a starter, but Ricardo Esparza played a little bit in 84-85 with Dallas. There's also like Bill Wennington, Chris Dudley, guys that I've actually heard of. But Esparza sounds better. And I don't anticipate him actually playing much, if at all. But that's going to make the team better. And so I'm pretty content with that. And, this team's ranked first going into the season. But, I feel like, we confidently have, Chris Mullin and Hakeem Olajuwon, who are, going to be the tenants of this team. Beyond that, don't necessarily know, but got a really good thing going here. I think that our starting 5 of Hakeem, Brad Doherty, Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, Kevin Johnson, still works for me. Rick Smits and Greg Anderson are going to have more evolved bench roles. Michael Cooper's still going to be the defensive wizard. And, Pippen and Hardaway, I think, are guys that I certainly trust as well. But that's going to be it for this video. I can see that the timer is showing that we're almost to 60 minutes, which I guess is the maximum, which honestly did not know, but I know that now. But we're going to keep it under an hour regardless. So, thank you for watching, and hopefully everyone will like and subscribe and watch these videos as they come out. See ya.